So the first question I have for them, you just heard me tell a teeny little bit about what I'd say is the origin story. And from getting a chance to know a few of the women, the determining point or thought for them wasn't, oh, I can't wait to get into the beer industry. That is what I'm doing. There was some progression there. So our first question today is to talk a little bit about how you ended up getting here and why you're on the stage now. Should we start on that end? I hate it when you always start to your right. It's so mean.
We're all to your right.
Let's start to my right.
Well, I like your part about we just didn't have this great idea. It did evolve. Especially Carmody, we started out as a Irish pub. I thought things were fine. We had Harp and Guinness. We had great whiskey. I was happy. We had killer Irish music. I thought we were doing just swell the way we were. My husband has a taste for craft beer. And it was his big fat idea. Just being the kind of soul he is, saying, you know, we could do this ourselves. And it's not that I was kicking and screaming. I thought things were going okay on the path we were. I was absolutely overwhelmed with the amount of paperwork it took just to go from a pub to a brew pub. That yeah, that was challenging. That took quite a while to get through, but we did it, and we searched out some great repurposed equipment. And it took a while, but we started making our own. And wow, I hate to say how right he was, but he is. Yeah, hurts to say that out loud, but he was right. And so we're continuing through, and I really am getting a kick out of it. I will go into that later, but there's so much to learn. It really has been a great experience.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's my story.
How about you, Melissa?
So I've been homebrewing for, I think, about 10 years. Maybe not quite that many, but I was living across the street from Northern Brewer Homebrew Supply in St. Paul, and I knit, I do a lot of cooking, I do a lot of do-it-yourself, make your own stuff sorts of things. So living across the street from a place that would allow me to make my own beer, as a person that drinks a lot of beer, and it hadn't even occurred to me that was a possibility, but just living there allowed me to get immersed in homebrewing, and I bought my first equipment, kits, extract kits, was doing that for a while, ended up going back to school, because this is like mid-20s range of my life. I was going to school, college, for horticulture. I was focused on organic small fruit and vegetable production, very interested in plants and growing things. While I was there, I ended up volunteering at Flat Earth, and was just pouring on sampling days and selling growlers, things like that, until they had a position open for a brewer, and they tried to wrangle me in and brought me in for that. but it was a very organic process getting into brewing professionally. Like I was doing other stuff. I was trying to go to school and maybe start a greenhouse or CSA, something like that. But while I was there, Flat Earth came in and, yeah, beer, you should do this. You can do this. Go. So I got in that way, and then it's been downhill ever since. I have an entire room in my home that is relegated to fermenters and propane burners and just, it's insane. Chest freezers. We have multiple chest freezers. Like, we're brewing all of the time. Brewing has become all-encompassing in my life, and I'm just really glad to be here doing that in Duluth at Fitker's Brew House. It's yes.
It's exhilarating.
Yeah.
Awesome. Your story's different.
It's a little different. So my partner has been working for the Thirsty Pagan for 8 years, and we did a brew festival about 7 years ago, and we went down to the Dells for Dells on Tap. It's a fun little brew fest, and when we went down there, we were not really prepared. We didn't have everything that we needed. We really, honestly, couldn't even serve the beer. Like, we were kind of freaking out. We're like, oh no, like, I need stuff to serve beer. And the other female head brewer in the state of Wisconsin is Jamie, and she's at the Dells Brewing Company. And so I went over to the home brewery. I'm like, okay, you guys are the hosts. Can you guys help me out? I need some hose clamps and some things. And she's a very, if you've ever had the opportunity to meet her, she's a very direct woman and very, very good at her job, and very, her expectations are very high of everyone she works with. And she pretty much was just, gave us a little berating for not being prepared. And then, just a little bit. But really, I think, yeah, I mean, if you don't come prepared. Yeah. But what was really cool about it is seeing a very strong woman in the brewing industry, and not just there serving beer, but she was making the beer that she was serving. And that was a really cool inspiration. So I don't think she knows that, because I probably would never have the guts to actually tell her that she was an inspiration to me, but it definitely kind of a cool experience.
Awesome.
So that kind of gave me the idea that, you know, I could do this as a job. Like, I could do this. I could make beer. And so years later, and many fermenting projects later, I decided that it was really something that I wanted to do, and started doing an internship. So yeah.
My story is kind of like Liz's, in the sense that we have our husbands to blame. My husband Clint started homebrewing in 2006, and kind of the same thing. You know, you like craft beer. Why don't I try making my own? And that's kind of how. I mean, that's pretty much how most breweries get started. Is you have a passion for craft beer, and so in 2010. You know, so Alyssa had mentioned that my husband and I also have a resort. So we have 12 small cabins, and we do all the cleaning. We do everything there that we can. Hence why my kids want to cut grass when they're older, because we have lots of grass to cut. So we're just waiting for the day they can be old enough to do that. It's awesome. We have a picture of my sister cutting grass at 10 years old, I think. So we only got about 4 more years. So we do all the cleaning, and such is the life since 2010. Every time we clean, we kind of talk business, you know, while we're in the cabins. And Clint's just every single day, every single cabin, he's talking about, well, I would maybe get a 3-barrel system, but, you know, I don't know if they make them yet. And he's going back and forth, and he's on the internet all the time looking at what kind of system he'd get. And I was really kind of tired of hearing him talk about it. So I have an accounting degree, so I'm kind of numbers oriented. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's take a look and see what you need and see what the numbers are and see if we can do it. And it is different for us. We did put up the building right on our property, so we didn't need to find a spot. You know, all that was there. My husband and my father, pretty much everyone we know, is very handy. So we put up the building ourselves, Clint got most of the equipment, hooked up himself. You know, it's really interesting going from the initial 3-barrel system to what we're going into now. When we got that 3-barrel, we were the 3rd system that the company we got it from had made for a 3-barrel. And at that point, the nano breweries were exploding. All of a sudden, they're just kind of popping up all over. And Clint always said, you know, if it doesn't work, then I got a really kick-ass homebrew system. So, and now we have a kick-ass pilot system. So that's kind of how it goes. So that's kind of how we got into it, and we've just kind of kept growing. And we started out with growlers, and just kind of that's how we got going. So he does the brewing, and then I do all the bookwork, and a lot of that, as Laura knows, there's lots to do on that side of the business as well. So we do a nice balance. He thinks differently than I do, so we're a very nice balance on, we say he's the gas and I'm the brakes, so that he's always like, let's go get some more equipment. I was like, hold on, how much is it gonna cost? So that's how our relationship works. I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. There's a good balance there, so that's how we got going.
Cool. Well, as Alyssa mentioned, in 2004, I started my own event planning company, and one of my first clients was the Family Tree Clinic, and they had a beer fest that had been going for a few years, and the guy who had been running it had left the facility, and they were like, would you like to take this on as a contract? And I said, sure. And in the past, they had been sampling, they're a local clinic, and they'd been sampling like Heineken or, you know, all these kind of national brands, and I was like, you're a local clinic, you should focus on local beer. So in doing that, I found the list of the much smaller than it is today amount of breweries that there were in the state, and especially in the cities, and started to make this list, and I was going to call them and invite them to come and do this beer fest. And there were only like 3 beer fests at the time. That has also changed significantly. So that was Arbor Fest. And when we did that, or one of the first calls I made was to Midwest Supplies, because I wanted to have a homebrewing demonstration. I was pretty nervous about calling all of these breweries to get them to come and donate their beer and their time. So I wanted to, you know, if the homebrewing table said no, at least it wouldn't like break the beer fest. So it was my first call, and I called, looked online, and Midwest was in the Google search over Northern, so I called Midwest, and I said, can I talk to somebody in marketing? And they laughed at me, because no one at a homebrew supply shop is in marketing. Well, it's changed now. It's changed significantly now, but it was much more homespun. And they're like, I guess that's Colin. And so they connected me with Colin, who I'm now married to. And we had this great phone call, and he was like, I was like, can you do this, my long spiel? And he was like, sure. And I was like, why not? Okay. So then I had a lot of confidence to call the other breweries, got them all to come. Arbor Fest was a very fun festival that went on for years. And in 2007, I'd gotten to know all the breweries because of that too. And in 2007, Autumn Brew Review, which is a very large festival in Minneapolis, was about to fold, actually, because it was very hard to run. It was volunteer run. Everyone was pretty tired. It was just sort of changing. They were losing their location. And Colin was on the board of the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild, and he's like, Laura can do this. You all know her from Arbor Fest. Why don't you let her try to bring ABR back? And so I did. So I ran ABR from 2007 to 2012, ended up running Winterfest, and started All Pints here and did it 1 year in Bayfront before I left the guild and started Bent Paddle Brewing Company with my husband and our business partners Brian and Karen Tonis. And there's Karen. What I love about Bent Paddle is it's 50% female owned, which is very rare because of Karen and I each being 25% owners.